February 19th, 1980. Overhill Road in East Dulwich, London. It was a freezing winter night. Parked on the side of the street sat a small Renault 5. Inside, a man was curled up in the passenger seat, covered by a blanket. To the people walking by, he looked like just another person sleeping off a heavy night of drinking. But this wasn't just anyone. This was the man who had just conquered the world with the album Highway to Hell. This was Bon Scott, the voice of AC/DC. When the car door was finally opened hours later, the silence was deafening. The official report would say death by misadventure. But for over 40 years, questions have remained. How did a rock god die alone in a small car? Who was the man driving him? What happened to the legendary notebook of lyrics that vanished that same night? To understand that night, we must rewind a few months. By late 1979, AC/DC was unstoppable. They were finally breaking into the American market. But the success came with a heavy price. Bon Scott was exhausted. He was 33 years old, which in 1980 was considered old for a rock star. He had spent years living out of suitcases, sleeping in buses, and drinking bottles of whiskey just to get through the day. Friends say Bon was lonely. He missed Australia, missed stability. He told his bandmates he wanted to buy a house and settle down. He even started taking better care of himself, mostly. But London in the 80s was a dangerous place for a bored rock star with time on his hands. The band was preparing for their next album. Bon was writing lyrics, pouring his soul into a new notebook. He was ready for the next chapter, but fate had other plans. On February 18th, the night started at the Music Machine Club in Camden. Bon had plans to meet some friends, but the key figure in this story is a man named Alistair Kinnear. Kinnear was not a close member of the AC/DC inner circle. He was a friend of a friend, specifically an ex-boyfriend of Bon's former girlfriend, Silver Smith. Many fans have pointed fingers at Kinnear for decades. Why was Bon with him? Witnesses say the drinking that night was heavy. Whiskey, beer, one after another. Bon Scott was known as the Ronnie Van Zant of rock. He seemed indestructible. But that night, his body reached its limit. He passed out in Kinnear's car on the drive home. Kinnear arrived at his apartment, but he couldn't wake Bon up. He was dead weight. A grown man in a deep alcohol-induced coma. Kinnear made a choice. Instead of calling an ambulance or dragging him inside, he reclined the seat, wrapped Bon in a blanket to protect him from the London cold, and went upstairs to sleep. He left a note for Bon to come up when he woke up. Bon never saw the note. This is where the story gets darker. When Bon died, his belongings were collected, but one thing was reportedly missing: his notebook. Bon was constantly writing lyrics for the upcoming album. Months later, AC/DC released Back in Black. It became the second best-selling album in music history. But many fans noticed something strange. Songs like You Shook Me All Night Long and Have a Drink on Me sounded different. They sounded exactly like Bon Scott's life. Rumors have circulated for 40 years that Bon wrote significant parts of that album before he died. Did his lyrics die with him? Or do they live on in the biggest rock album ever made, sung by Brian Johnson? The family of Bon Scott has often wondered about royalties and credit. It remains one of the biggest mysteries in rock history. Back to Overhill Road. Alistair Kinnear woke up the next evening. It was getting dark again. Suddenly remembered Bon was still in the car. He ran downstairs. The car was cold. Bon was in an awkward position. His neck was twisted. There was vomit. Kinnear panicked. He drove aggressively to King's College Hospital. But the doctors took one look and knew. Bon Scott had been dead for hours. The cause was acute alcohol poisoning and aspiration. Essentially, he had choked in his sleep because of the position of his body. If he had been laid on his side or taken inside, he might still be here today. The news broke the next morning. AC/DC singer found dead. The band was devastated. Malcolm and Angus Young considered quitting music forever. How do you replace a frontman who was the soul of the band? But at Bon's funeral, his father, Chick Scott, told them Bon would want the show to go on. They found Brian Johnson, and they turned their grief into power. The first track they recorded opened with a slow, ominous bell, Hell's Bells, a tribute to their fallen brother. Bon Scott lived fast and died young. But on quiet nights in London, fans still visit Overhill Road, just to pay respect to the man who took the highway to hell and never came back.